Hey everybody, Dr. Ben Atkins here. If you can hear my voice coming through loud and clear, do me a quick favor. Say hello in the chat. Let me know that you can hear me, that we're here, and everybody is rocking and rolling. Let me know how things are going, guys. Let me know where you're at. How you doing? What's the temperature like where you're at today? It's good to see everybody here, and I tell you what, I get super duper excited when we get to hang out and do all the things together. So it's good to see you guys. Make sure you jump in that chat, say hello, and let me know. Real quick before we get started, my man Michael is in the chat with the question. He says, did the Clipcast for Chamber of Commerce been promised already happened, or is it still in the works? It already happened, buddy. If you go to clipcast.ai/blog, go jump into clipcast.ai/blog for me and go to that case study, how we built the Marion, Iowa Business Growth Podcast in under 5 minutes. And we have a full write-up on that, as well as there's the video of the call that we did down at the very bottom of that, where you could watch the replay of that call and get all the goodies that we talked about on that call. So go check that out. By the way, everybody, just to let you know, we're talking onboarding today, but anytime you miss anything or you're wondering, hey, did they cover that already? You can always jump over to our blog, clipcast.ai. You can click blog at the top of the screen, and you can go check that out. And it's all right there for you. We like keeping things nice and tidy and organized for you guys, so that you got that. And why not toss this on the screen for you guys so that you guys can see this? Can you guys see the blog on your screen right now? Why not give you a little preview of what that looks like? We've got all of the past things that we've done, and we've got constant new updates coming to this blog to keep you guys in the know of what we're doing. By the way, today's call onboarding is going to be on that particular site right after we get done. So within a day is usually how long it takes us to get these things up and organized the way they need to be. So it will be there, and you can go check it out. And yeah, we can get rocking with that. So I hope everybody is doing good here today. Before we get started, I want to bring on my good buddy and just a really all-around great guy, Mr. Zach Anderson. Zach, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. It woke up and it was raining significantly, which wasn't very fun.
It happens. It happens. But yeah, it's just a little bit of rain around will put you in a mood, won't it?
No,
Um,
yeah.
I like going to sleep with it, but I'm not so big on waking up to it. So I feel you with that. Um, so what else is going
It's,
on?
and it's like cold, so it's like not fun.
Yeah, it's cold. Cold rain's the worst. Cold rain's the absolute
Yep.
worst. Um, you've been busy. You've been real busy. I don't know if everybody has noticed how busy you've been the last little bit, but you have been quite busy on a lot of things, but especially in the back of our beloved app, the Clipcast. And as we go through today's onboarding call, we're going to be talking a lot about some of the things that we've been doing in the background, and kind of where we're at with things and what we're planning on doing. So we're going to talk about all the things. And so I'm going to actually, if it's okay with you, man, I'm going to talk about some of our updates in the context of onboarding today, if that
Yeah.
works for you. Cool. So you
Yeah.
guys, we got some updates that Zach and Katie and the whole team have been working on. But I'm going to talk about that in the context of our topic today, which is onboarding. Give me a big number one. A big number one in the chat. If you can hear me, you can see right now. You should be looking at the Clipcast blog. Just let me know that you can see those things on your screen. Right now, it should have switched over to the back end of Clipcast, where you're going to see a couple things in the back end, and we're going to get going with that. Everybody see this? Okay, kind of see the back end. Good. I'm going to switch this over to a Word doc that I'm going to be giving you guys because I want to talk about a couple things, but you should see me kind of flipping back and forth. Okay, good. So, like I said, right now, what I want to talk to you guys about is onboarding customers, because I think this is incredibly important. When you sign up a customer, we want to talk about what happens when that customer comes on board. And the first thing that I like to do when I bring on a customer, like we just sold a customer, and now it's time to start doing kind of the work, right? Well, the first thing that I want to talk to you about is when you bring on a customer and they want to clone their voice. Like, give me a number one if that's like one of the big concerns for you guys. Like, you bring on a customer, they want to clone their voice, and that's part of sort of the thing, right? So we've been really hard at work over the last little bit, and I think we're hard at work. Just a lot of people who are concerned with this particular topic in the AI space, which is voice cloning. And how do you get good voice clones that sound like the person that you're wanting to work with, right? So what we found is this, and this is like us getting in and working with a lot of people to do this over the last little bit, is when you're giving them a script, one of two things is going to happen. Um, and what we found is the majority of the time, the thing that we don't want to happen happens. The one thing that can happen is they're going to record the script and they're going to be fun and animated, and their normal self talking. Um, and that's one thing that could happen. The other thing that could happen, and this is what we've kind of started to find happens most often, is when somebody's reading a script, they do not sound like themselves normally talking at all. Give me a number one if this makes sense to you. Like when they're reading a script that you've given them, they don't sound like themselves in conversation at all, or anything like what they would sound like when they are, actually doing something. Yeah. So that's kind of what happened. And so, you get to like, okay, well, how do I actually get them to a place to where we're going to like, get them to sound well like they would normally sound? Because if they don't sound like themselves reading the script like they would sound in a conversation, then they're not going to sound like themselves when you clone their voice. That's all there is to it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts around it. And so I want to give you guys the solution to this to get a lot closer when you're actually doing this voice cloning. And it is this. Can you guys see this? This questionnaire, it's 10 questions. Give me a yes if you can see 10 questions on your screen right now, just so I know that you guys have got this. By the way, we will put this into our show notes. We will put this into the blog, so when it goes up live on this page, the Clipcast blog, you guys are going to have access to this too. Everybody that is on this call today, we will pass this over to you just so you've got it. So what this is instead of having them read a script, I want you all to think about this. I want you all to think about either getting them on the phone or preferably getting them on a Zoom call, something like that, where you're asking them questions and you are interviewing them where they have to talk on the fly rather than read a script. Give me a number one if you understand where I'm going with this. Meaning, you're asking them a question and they have to think about the answer and they have to give you an answer on the fly. It's much different than when we are in a position to where we are reading a script. The way that we talk when we are talking straight from the heart, when we are talking and answering a question, it's much different. And the other thing that you have to really focus on, you guys, is this, and I'll go through these questions in a second, but the other thing that you have to focus on when you're actually interviewing someone to get a voice clone is you have to ask them questions where they're talking about things, number one, that they already know about, but that they're passionate about. Okay. And this is the key. So what we actually had these questions sitting in the back for some other things that we were doing in the past. But it's funny, they came back around. They came back around because it was just absolutely what we needed to do to get them to come out of their shell, not be reading a script in a boring monotone voice or a voice that was completely unnatural, and put us in a position where we got the actual voice we wanted. By the way, the person that was like the most instrumental in us getting this figured out and right is Katie from our team. And I got to give Katie big props on this. Katie was just like, you got to get people talking like they normally talk. And they're not doing it a lot of times when we're getting them to read these scripts. And so after a lot of like, okay, what do we do to get better with this? It's not like we weren't getting terrible, but to get better versions of this, we started actually diving in and rocking it this way. And so here's the questions, and I'm not going to read them all through. So you guys can do that. But the idea is, can you introduce yourself and tell us about your business in your own words? So what I do is I get on a Zoom call and I say, hey, appreciate you getting on the call. We're going to use this for the voice clone. I'm just going to interview you. And I need you to just be as normal and animated as you normally are when you're answering questions about yourself and your business. But just go through these questions with me. And then I go in and I say, can you introduce yourself and tell us about your business in your own words? And then they do that. And then I say, okay, well, cool. What inspired you to start or join the business? And what keeps you passionate about it? Okay, cool. They answer that. How would you describe what your business does to someone who has never heard of it before? And we go down the list and we ask these questions, and I try to be as animated as I am right now. And this is the other kind of onboarding trick I want to give you guys. When you are asking these questions, keep in mind, I do it like I'm putting together a podcast episode. Give me a big number one if you heard me on that. I do these interviews with the client like I am doing a podcast episode. So if you're catching the animation in my voice right now, if you're catching sort of the energy that I'm bringing to the table, that is incredibly important. And please, 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 even if you're not typed anything else, make sure that you give me a number one in the chat so I know that you heard me on this. You have to bring some energy to these interviews. It's contagious. It will make them fall in love with you even more. When I'm doing an onboarding call with a client, I need to have energy. When you bring energy to a sales meeting, when you bring energy to an onboarding meeting, it makes the client feel like they want to do more things with you. As a agency owner, as someone that does stuff like this for clients, it is incredibly important that you understand energy, and the energy you bring to the table is going to be a big one. So when I'm doing this onboarding call, I have kind of this bouncy, this upbeat energy that I always try to bring to these calls, because it is going to be contagious. It's going to help the client come out of their shell, but more importantly, it's going to help the client to understand that they are in the right place, because people want to work with people that have energy. Because when you're doing marketing, you have to have energy. You want to feel people like you're progressing them forward. When you have energy like this, it makes them feel as if, hey, this is someone that's going to help me move forward, because when I get tired, they're going to have energy. And that's the thing. People are paying you to take over and have the energy to do a job for them. I know that sounds crazy. It's just one of those weird psychological things, but that is a super important part of not only your sales meetings, not only your getting clients, but also when you're onboarding. So the first thing that we do is we go through these list of questions. When I'm done with these questions, I say, hey, thank you. I really, really appreciate everything that you did today. This is going to help us clone the voice. Now, let me take a pause here. Let me take a pause here. I need you all to understand something about this sheet. This is a disguise. Not only are we getting what we need for our voice cloning, but what else do you think that I am doing? What else do you think I'm doing as I go through this sheet with people? As I go through these questions, as I go through this interview, what else do you think is happening? Number one, I I've just created content if I want to. I've just, loaded up with a ton of information that I can transcribe this information. I could load it into AI and get more stuff. But I need you guys to understand this. If you're paying close attention to what I'm doing with these questions, I am learning enough about their business that I am getting what I need to possibly sell them more stuff in the future. Things are going to come out when I'm doing this that says, hey, you know what? This person needs a website too. This person needs this because they're trying to achieve this. Like what number 10, what's next for your business? And exciting developments coming out. This is going to help you extract things in the context of voice cloning. It's going to help you extract things that are going to help you to sell them more stuff that they need. Not just sell them more stuff, but actually sell them more stuff that they need. So this is like, yes, this is our voice training interview, but I want you to understand that a big part of this is we are setting ourselves up to sell them other services, other things that we do. And I think it's incredibly important to mention that for those of you that are doing the onboarding stuff. Okay, so we've got that. As soon as we get done with getting their stuff in, what we're going to do is we are going to take this interview and we are going to edit out us asking questions. Be a yes if you understand me. We're just going to edit out the parts where we're talking. So you put it into an editing program, you edit out the parts where you were talking so that the only thing in the interview, now you'll save a copy of just of the interview with you in it too, because it's going to be good for content down the road. But the idea here is you're going to edit out the parts where you're talking and you're just going to have the parts where they're talking. Okay, now that may sound a little ridiculous, but remember, we're cloning their voice. We don't need our voice in that mix as well. Yeah, you could do this in the script. You could do this. I use Studio One is the audio editing program of my choice. Anything that's an audio editing program, you should be able to go in and rock that out pretty easily. There's tons of audio editing programs out there that, but my advice for you is get comfortable with something. If you're not super comfortable with something, you could always jump on Fiverr for someone that does audio editing and just tell them, hey, I'll pay you to take this out of this. Uh, Another great thing, a great resource for you guys that we have taken advantage of is your local college has a radio TV department. Give me a yes if you understand that. Everybody here, your local college has a radio TV department. Okay. Your high schools may have programs where kids are doing audio editing. So I want you guys to understand the key here is if you don't want to do it, there's tons of people you can pay to do this stuff. But the idea is go in and have somebody edit out the parts where you're talking. And so we're going to end up with just a file that has just them answering the questions. From there, we're going to hop over to Clipcast and we're going to go to voices. Okay. From voices, we're going to jump in and we're going to go to add a new voice. Yeah. Kim says Audacity is great for editing. Audacity is a great program. Yeah, absolutely. Um, there's tons of good ones out there, but that's what we're going to do. Once we edit it out, we're going to jump in here. We are going to upload the audio file. If the audio file is over 10 megabytes, then you're going to clip it into pieces. Sometimes I clip these interviews into multiple pieces. So just every time they answer a question, that's its own audio file. Give me a yes if you understand that. Okay, we don't want to go over the 10 megabytes. We want to just have an audio file that, it can just be the questions. Just each question is its own file. That's completely okay. So upload those files. You're going to name this after the person. So whoever the person is that you interviewed, you're going to name it after them, and then you are going to click save. What you're going to end up with is something like, one of these voices down here. Okay. So we're going to have those voices there. From there, we're going to go to our podcast and whatever your podcast is. And I'm just going to go, this would not be a business podcast, but we're going to go into our business podcast and we're going to create the podcast. So if I were to go from scratch, I would create the new podcast and I'm just going to name the host after the person. So this would be William. We're going to have our email here. We're going to put the host expertise. So if it's a chiropractor, you put the chiropractor, talk about what they're good at. By the way, if you want to see me go through some of the descriptions that I've used, we've got descriptions in these replays on the blog. You can go to the section where I'm going through actually setting up the podcast, and I'll go through the descriptions for you. But we've got our host expertise. We've got the host goals for the podcast. A lot of times my goals for the podcast are to educate potential customers on X, right? Their brand. So you put the name of their business and put the name of their location. So wherever they're located, put that in. And the next page, we've got some things you're going to basically be classifying your podcast. To kind of get into that a little bit, you can see one like this. So this is Arnold Jackson. I put my email address in here because I don't want the client to have to worry about it. We've got the host is a certified public accountant for the last 15 years. The goals for the podcast to help Texas residents understand the tax code and help them save money on their taxes every year. We've got Jackson and Jacobs Accounting, Houston, Texas. The next page, pod details. It's an education podcast. There's no explicit content. The podcast topic is helping Texas business owners with their tax planning so they can save more money every single year. We've got Texas business owners as their target audience. Their tone is professional but friendly. The unique element of the podcast will focus specifically on helping Texas-based business owners with their tax planning. So we would go into there. Let's just go into this Texas podcast right now. And I would start creating episodes. So we would have this. I would create my cover image. You guys, we give you guys Canva templates all the time. If you go to Canva and you type in podcast, though, they've got podcast cover stuff that you can do. And then what we're going to do is we're going to jump in here and we are going to rock out some specific stuff. So we can go in and create new episode. What I like to do when I'm onboarding a client is create 3 episodes to start. I like to create 3 episodes and have them published. Give me a yes if you can hear me on this. 3 episodes and have them published. That's the start. Okay. 3 episodes and have them published. And then here's the other side of what I like to do. I like to do another 3 episodes. And now this is where we get into some of the fun. Does everybody see this on your screen, this little section here? Give me a yes if you can see these little calendars. By the way, we're going to edit some of this because it's not exactly what we want yet. I don't like the red there. Zach can comment on that too. We're going to tweak out some of this stuff because, like I said, there's a couple tweaks, but I wanted to give you kind of the baseline of what's there right now. Right now, I can go in and I can click this. And I can say, you know what? I want to click this calendar. I want to make sure that this draft podcast that I have, I want to make sure that this draft podcast goes live on a specific date. So I'm going to say this particular podcast, I want it to go live Monday at, let's just say 9 a.m. Eastern. So 9 a.m. Eastern is when we're going to schedule this. We click schedule. It'll say, hey, you sure? And I'll be yes. And when we do, it turns that color so that we know that it's scheduled. And if you hover over the top of that, you can see for exactly when that's scheduled for. Give me a yes if this makes sense. So when I onboard a client, I like to publish the first 3 episodes, and I like to push this. Now, I will tell you something I do before I actually click publish on the episode. This is important. Do you guys see this button here? Give me a yes if you can see the listen button here. Or all time scheduling times at Eastern, you can change it. You can change it to any of these. Okay. You can change it to any of those right now. Just so you know. I will say this before I publish a podcast live on like Apple or any of those areas. What I like to do is I will take the first 2 or 3 episodes and I will push this button here. Welcome to. Can everybody see this link up at the top? Give me a number 1 in the box if you see the link up at the top that I've got highlighted up here. Give me a yes if you got that. What I'm going to do, you guys, is I'm going to take the first 3 episodes or so, and I'm going to send them to the clients, send them in an email, send them in a text, however you want to do it. And I say, I need you to listen to these in the next day or so. We're this close to getting this thing published out. I want you to make sure that this sounds good to you. The information sounds accurate. You're cool with the way the voice sounds. Give me a yes if this all is good for you. But I need you to listen to these. Take a good, 20 minutes out of your day. If you got any notes about anything, make sure that you send those my direction. Everybody follow me so far on onboarding and what I am doing before we click publish on any of the episodes, before we actually publish these to iTunes, before we go through any of the publishing process. Give me a big yes in the box if this makes sense to you. Give me a big yes in the box if this makes sense to you. Perfect. So, like I said, once they come back and say, you know what, sounds good. That sounds pretty good. Let's run with that. What we're going to do from there is we're going to move into kind of paying close attention to this RSS feed. Now, a couple key things that I like to do for this is number 1, I like building out and getting this thing distributed to some core places. One of the core places that I love getting this distributed to is YouTube. Give me a yes if you can see YouTube up here in your chat. Now I'm going to go back to a different podcast because I'm going to actually, go through this process. But can you guys see, or I'm going to pull up on my Urban Legends podcast, but so I've got a channel that I set up. It's got my Urban Legends stuff. And what I'm doing right now is I'm in my YouTube studio. Okay. I'm in my YouTube studio. And this is, if you go to your YouTube, like this is like your channel, right? So we've got our channel here. We don't have anything really up on our channel yet for this particular one. But what we're going to do is within your settings, you can go to YouTube Studio. Okay. And within YouTube Studio, you can go up to create and you can do new podcast and you can do submit RSS feed. Okay. Now, here's the thing, it's going to ask you to verify your phone number first. Everybody, give me a yes if you see verify your phone number first. You got to verify your phone number first. But when you're done verifying your phone number, it is going to give you the ability to insert this thing here. Now we've been working on this for quite some time, and now you can submit these. We've got everything sort of in shape to submit these to YouTube so that YouTube will accept them. But verify your phone number first. Like I said, it'll ask you to do that. Once you click that, it's going to take you to a page to do that. It'll send you a text usually, and then you're good to go. From there, we're going to go over to Apple and we're going to log in. I'm not going to log into Apple in front of you, but we submit our podcast there. Then we're going to go to Spotify and we're going to submit our podcast there. Does all of this make sense as to what my workflow is when I bring on a new client? Give me a big, big yes if these things make sense to you so far. So far, so good. Give me a yeah. So far, so good. So, like I said, let's look here. Do you need a separate account in app for the client in Apple or Spotify? If you have an Apple account already, no, you don't. You can do everything under your own Apple account. If you don't have an Apple account, you'll have to set up an Apple account. You'll have to set up a Spotify account. But the Spotify setup, it's not like you have to have a paid account to either of these. Does this make sense? Does this make sense? Don says, do you need a different phone number for each new podcast? No, usually you can put your own phone number in there. No problem. If you run into any trouble with that, you can always you can always use like a burner phone number. And if for those of you that have never heard me talk about the Burner app, it's a great little app where you can set up, phone numbers on your phone that forward to your own phone. So you can use the forwarding number if you want to, but I've never had a problem just setting them all up underneath my own stuff. So a couple of key things, and I don't want to gloss over this because this was a lot of work. Scheduling for podcasts is here. Just making sure everybody understands that scheduling for podcasts is now here. You get to that by clicking on these little schedule icons. And you can get these things scheduled. You guys can see I've got the next several episodes. What I like to do when I do have a client, this is not onboarding, this is more down the road. I like to make sure I have at least 4 podcasts scheduled, and then I set an alarm when I've got only one left scheduled. I go in and I go build the next schedule out. When you've got clients, do not get into a position where you're doing every episode the week of. Give me a big yes if this makes sense and you followed me on that. Do not, when you're working with clients, have the podcast where you're set up in a way where it's only, one at a time. You're the week of. Don't do that. I want you to set up your podcast. I like to have 4 scheduled at a time. When we get down to just one left on the schedule, I've set an alarm on my phone. That means I log back into Clipcast and I get the next 3 scheduled so that I have 4. When it gets down to 1 again, I always look, okay, what's the last date that we've got here for my last scheduled episode, 3/31/25? Okay, well, I don't want that one. I want the one that's before, right? So I would want 3/24. When the 3/24 one goes live, that means there's only one left scheduled, and I'm going to go in and make sure that I get scheduled. We want to keep our clients ahead so that we've always got about a month worth of content, when we sit down and schedule. But when we are down to one episode, meaning I always go the week before the episode that is the last one, those are your best practices. And yeah, okay. So here's the deal. So here's what we got. Donna, send me a screenshot of what you're talking about, and I'll make sure you're good to go. You should be good to go. That should be fine. Yeah. And by the way, this red color, Zach and I are going to be getting rid of that. There will be something different the way that this published stuff looks. Right now, to see when it's going live schedule wise, you have to actually hover over the top of these to kind of see what's going on there. We're going to get you guys in a position to where this is not red, because red usually means you've done something wrong. That's not what's going on here. We're going to get it to where, like, you don't have to click into this or hover over it. We'll get this to where it makes a little more sense. We were at a place though where we could get the scheduling live for you guys. So we got you guys scheduling. We're going to get it to a place here pretty soon where we've kind of dialed this in a little more. So we got a couple of house cleaning things to do with the scheduling, but the scheduling functions right now. Typically, when I first schedule something, by the way, when I first put an episode together and I schedule it, these are black. But after a couple minutes, they'll turn to red. We're going to get this to where I think probably scheduled episodes are going to be like green. Anything that's already gone live will have black, and the green ones will have the date that it's going to go up. And also, it's not going to say 225, 312. By the way, you ever see anything like this? It usually means a developer did it. Zach and I, this drives us crazy when the dates are done this way. So we're going to do some house cleaning on this, but we wanted to get the feature to you live as quickly as possible. And so, like I said, wanted to get that taken care of so that you guys were rocking and rolling with that. Scheduling is live. You're good to go there. From a perspective of working with the client, though, I do want to mention one more thing that I think is incredibly important. And I think that this is a big deal, because we like this for SEO, right? We like this for SEO. Now, this is not necessarily a great example of this, but it works. Can you guys see serialprogressseeker.com? Me, yes, if you can see this. This is like my home base here. Okay. This is my home base. One of the things that I like to do for clients, because this is like the core reason, you guys, that we do these podcasts. And I need everybody to understand this. Does everybody here understand that one of the core ways that we sell podcasts, we sell AI podcast, and we do this, the core reason we do this is for SEO benefit. Like, one of the core things that I do this for is SEO benefit. And to get the most bang for your buck SEO wise, it's great to have the podcast on their site. Everybody give me a yes if this makes sense. It's great to have the podcast on their site. Now, if they have a net engine site because you're doing their site, NetEngine does this automatically where it adds the podcast automatically. But if I click into this, notice this is a new page on my site that's got, you know, the podcast, it's got the stuff that's in there. I need you guys to understand, do you think that it's important that a business's homepage is constantly updating with new content? Do you think it's important that a business's homepage is constantly being updated with new content? And so it means it's alive. It means it's new. It means it's growing. It means it's doing things. So one of the things that I like to do when we have a Clipcast podcast go live, we will make sure that, you know, we have it connected to their website so that it is constantly pushing out new stuff. And like I said, this is a NetEngine website. So you guys, it does this automatically, but I wanted to make sure you guys understand this. When I'm doing a podcast for a client, part of my sales process, you guys, is to make sure that the podcast, every time we publish a new podcast, and remember, when you publish a new podcast in Clipcast, when you've already connected it to YouTube, when you've already connected it to Apple, when you've already connected it to Spotify, all you got to do is publish it here and it will go live on those three networks automatically. If you're using NetEngine, and you don't have to use NetEngine, but if you're using something to where we're automatically updating the homepage of our client's website, it's also automatically going to publish here too. So you've got this machine. Give me a yes if you understand. We've got a machine here. Does this make sense? So I'm going to go through something, and this is not a NetEngine call, but I do want to go through this with you guys because I think it's incredibly important that we go through kind of what we're doing here. If for those of you that are NetEngine people, okay. So I want to kind of like lock into this real quick. Can you guys see? Can you guys see the back of NetEngine on your screen? So this is just the back end of this website. This is like how this website came together. Give me a yes if you can see this. Okay. All right. So, like I said, there are WordPress plugins that do automatic podcast stuff. I'm not a big WordPress guy, but for those of you that like have clients that have WordPress websites and you haven't brought them over to NetEngine yet, you can, you know, automatically bring those over, and that's fine. But I want you to look in NetEngine. It works like this. There is something called the podcast gallery. If you go up here and you go to add block, you can see this, or you can even do this with just add element. So I can go to the plus here, add element, and it's what we call our podcast gallery. Now, when you click into a podcast gallery, it will ask you to search for a podcast. So if I were to go in and type in Urban Legends Unknown, or Uncovered, sorry. I'm thinking of a TV show instead. Does everybody see that I can apply the collection here and it's going to automatically pull the podcast into this? Now, what happens with this is I want you guys to understand this. This is where our apps connecting is very powerful. Does everybody understand that the second that that podcast goes live on Apple Podcast, our system is going to start processing it to also publish it on the page automatically? Give me a yes if this makes sense to you. Give me a yes if this makes sense to you. So all you got to do is type in the name of your podcast after it's been accepted to Apple, and our system's going to go find it. It's going to pull it up, and it's going to bring it over to the system. The beautiful part about this is once you get this machine going, once you get your YouTube stuff set up, once you get Apple set up, once you get Spotify set up, once you get those things set up, if you're running a NetEngine website, you come back to NetEngine, connected here. From that point, you don't have to go back into the stuff. You can just publish your podcast live. All of these things, it's just going to work. They're going to be published there automatically. And so what you are effectively building for a client is an SEO promotional machine. They're going to get a new YouTube video. They're going to get a new podcast on Apple that has their links in it. They're going to get all these things. Now, one more thing I will tell you that I think is incredibly important for these podcasts is this. When you go in and you do these podcasts, you guys, when you go in and do these podcasts, I think it's incredibly important that you go in and you edit your description. Go in and edit your description and somewhere say, for more, visit us at, and type in your URL. Does this make sense? Does this make sense? Go in and rock that out to where we've got this. Now, one of the requests that's in the chat that I think is pretty good, and somebody go put this in the feature request. Somebody say, hey, can you build us something that will be like a podcast gallery that will come straight out of Clipcast that we can embed on other websites? I think that's a great suggestion for a feature down the road. Obviously, it's built into NetEngine right now, but if you guys would like something to where we could build this into Clipcast, where you guys could pull a podcast, go put that into the suggestions box. If you, by the way, for those of you that don't know, if you go to the Clipcast website and you go down here to feature request, that's where you go submit. Okay, go submit some things. We've got some things in here right now that we're going through. You guys have been awesome about submitting these things. Feel free to go submit that. If you would like kind of the podcast gallery feature where we have some code built into that, feel free to ask that. If it's something that we can do, I think that could be something that's very, very powerful. I like that suggestion in the chat. And like I said, we always like to listen to you guys on those things. So excellent stuff there. Like I said, we've been listening to you guys. That's why the new features that I talked about today are there. The reason I brought them up on today's call, you guys, is because it's all part of onboarding for me. The scheduling is a part of onboarding for me because it gets us out of the mix. How many of you understand that because the scheduling is in here, it puts you in a position to where you literally have the machine working for you? Give me a yes if this makes sense. I can sit down, you guys, at a coffee shop with my headphones on, and I can put together a month's worth of content for my client, and I can get it scheduled out. And if you've got this machine where it's connected to YouTube, it's connected to Apple, it's connected to the websites like we've got here. If you've got this machine going, you are doing so much for a client, but all you're having to do is log into Clipcast to get everything set up. And so I want you guys to understand, sitting down, setting up a podcast for a client, onboarding them correctly. Once I get their stuff, after I get them interviewed to clone their voice, that's fine. I'll say this. Does everybody understand that not all of your clients are going to want to clone their voice? I need you guys to understand, not all clients are going to clone their voice. If you go into the podcast, guys, this Restaurants Rising Online, the voice of this podcast is not Ben Atkins, but it's a podcast for Content DFY. It's a podcast for Content DFY. Let's do a little exercise here. Let's go to Content DFY. Does everybody see our agency website on your screen right now? Give me a big yes if you can see it. Okay, cool. So here's the idea. Down here is our podcast. We're doing the same stuff, you guys. When we publish an episode here, it goes live everywhere, but it goes live here. And this is a way for us to get SEO the way that we want to get SEO going. We want to optimize for certain things. Well, we're keyword optimizing for restaurant stuff. So the idea is, if you go listen to this podcast, it's not me. It's not my voice. I'm the owner of this agency, but the person that is the person on this thing is our podcaster. And our dedicated podcaster for this show is Chad Elder. Okay. And Chad interviews guests, but Chad Elder is the main voice. Chad's not a real person. And so, you guys, you don't have to have a clone voice for a business. You can have a stand-in person that's doing the podcast for the business. And so I want to make sure that we're like all on the same page with that. But like I said, with every podcast that you do, this is something that's a good sort of thing. Does everybody see this on my description? Let me pull this description here. Does everybody see what I have at the bottom of this description? Give me a yes if you see what's on the bottom of this description here for this particular podcast. Now, here's the thing. Does everybody understand that this description travels with the podcast? What I mean by that is, when this podcast goes live on Apple, this description of the podcast goes with it, and so does my link. When it goes live on Spotify, this goes to Spotify. So we're getting a link from Spotify. We're getting a link from Apple. When we go to YouTube and we're publishing there, this link goes with it. So the important thing that I want you guys to understand is, you are not building a podcast. Like Clipcast is about building a podcast. I get that. But everybody here needs to understand, if you are selling Clipcast to businesses, you are not selling a podcast. You are selling search engine optimization, and please stick with me, You are selling them, if you're smart, something to promote and talk about on their social media channels. So they don't have to think about what to promote on their social media channels. You are if they have a new podcast coming out every week, they have something to talk about on their social media channels that not it's not the boring stuff that they would normally talk about. And so every single week you're giving them a new topic to talk about in their offices. You're giving them a new topic to talk about on social media, but more importantly than that, you are selling search engine optimization if you are embedding this podcast in the places you need to go. And what I'm telling you here, what I want everybody to take into this is this podcast that you were doing is an SEO machine, because if you place it, if they won't put it on their front page of their website, holy hell, build them a website, build them a website that will have the podcast on it that will rank for them. Better to have a page that ranks and their phone number and their, how to get a hold of them if they won't put it on their website. But this is the SEO machine. And I want you guys to understand that when I'm selling this, I am typically selling this as an SEO / social media content generating machine. And I think that's the bigger picture here for everybody. Give me a number one if you heard me on this. As I'm selling this, I know we're talking onboarding today, but let's talk about selling it. As I'm selling Clipcast, I'm selling an SEO machine. I am selling something that's going to help businesses rank higher. I'm selling something that's going to help businesses have something to talk about on social media week in and week out. And I think that that's a big deal. Um, somebody says, would, having a hero page be good? That's all this is. Does everybody understand? This is my main website, but does everybody understand that this is just a hero page that has a link to our YouTube, that has a link to our podcast, and it's got a little description here? Everybody got that? All this is a hero page. I am putting this in. So I think everybody that's putting one of these together, having a hero page for your customers is incredibly important. Incredibly important. Now, can I tease something? You guys cool with me teasing something that we've got coming down the road that I think is incredibly important? Zach, are you cool with me teasing something?
Yeah.
You cool with that?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I want to talk about something. We got a call coming up at the end of the month, and it's probably one of the more important calls that we've ever done. Um, and is the reason I say that is because I'm going to be showing you something that fits into this SEO model. And this is one that I'm working on for my brother. I'm going to go through this extensively when you get this. Can you guys see this page right now? By the way, I'm going to have this flashing back and forth so you can see the similarities here. You guys see the similarities of what we're doing? It's the same thing, but it's a different flavor. It's the same thing, but it's a different flavor, you guys. And I want you guys to understand this is more of a blog model rather than the podcast model, but you can run a podcast on this too. It's the same exact setup pretty much, but there's a couple extra elements on here that I'm going to flash to. We are building SEO machines. We are building SEO machines and we are building social media machines. Does everybody understand what I am saying here? At the end of the month, we're going to be talking about this on a special call. I'm going to be letting you inside. I'm going to be giving you guys access to templates, but I want you guys to understand that these kinds of pages that I'm showing you right here are gold mines. Absolute gold mines. And I'm not talking about gold mines for your agency. Of course, they're gold mines for your agency. I'm talking about gold mines for your clients. And so stick around. At the end of the month, we're going to talk about that. That's not the context of today's call, but does everybody understand what we do to onboard a client to get them from start, where we have nothing for them, to where we have a podcast live and we have a machine built for them that's going to give them SEO benefit, but also social media content that they can use every single week? Like I said, I come out of the gate with the client with 3 podcasts. I have them listen to it as soon as they approve of those. We publish 3 first, but then I have 3 to 4 podcasts scheduled that are going to be ready for the client so that those things are automatic. I don't have to think of it every week. When I get myself down to where there's only 1 still scheduled, I set myself an alarm. So I set myself an alarm to let me know, hey, it's time to go schedule more podcasts, and we create those. I get most of my clients' podcasts done at the beginning of the month, and they're scheduled the rest of the month, and I don't have to do anything. Give me a big yes if you understand what Clipcast has given me the power to do. I have most of my client work done at the beginning of the month. And I want you guys to understand when I say done, I want you to think about these kinds of sites. We have these kinds of sites. I'm not just delivering a podcast, I'm delivering a full experience. I'm delivering a full experience. I'm also delivering, you guys, I'm also delivering the social media posts that will go with the podcast that we have scheduled that they can post the week of the podcast. Does everybody understand that? We're building a machine here, you guys. The machine, the brain of the machine, is powered by Clipcast. Does everybody understand the machine that we've got here? It's powered by Clipcast. Clipcast is the brain of the whole thing. Clipcast is what makes it all work. But that's what we're doing for clients. Like I said, we're going to be talking a lot more about this in the next little bit, but I wanted to get you guys going with that. That said, I had fun today. If you had fun today on today's call and you learned some stuff, give me a big, big, big number one in the box and let me know that you enjoyed today and that you're excited about this. Good. When it comes to onboarding a new client, do you have any contract or agreement documentation? You absolutely can. I know we've got some contracts hanging out here somewhere. I'll see what I can do about getting you guys access to some contracts for something like this. And so, Katie, remind me to get everybody access in the back end. All of my Clipcast subscribers, if you're a Clipcast subscriber, I will make sure that I get you guys access to a contract sample. Now, disclaimer that the lawyers make me go through. If you're going to use that contract, you guys, you probably need to run it by your own lawyer. But I will be making sure that that we're working on that. Okay, you guys. Thank you for being here. Thanks for all the cool suggestions. We'll be working on the replay in the next little bit, and like I said, lots of good stuff. All you got to do is make sure you hop over to clipcast.ai and just click on the blog thing at the top, and you can always find the replays back there. Listen, if you're not using Clipcast Hardcore right now, you are missing the boat. You are missing an opportunity. This thing is a monster, and I know what it's doing for our agency. I know what it's doing for our businesses. I need you guys to lock in on how big this thing can be. If you're rocking this, and like I said, I know everybody gets busy. I just like to stress we've got something here, you've got something here that is an absolute monster. If you're using this thing and you're putting it in front of people, you're getting customers right now, you're getting money coming through. If you need any help, you got any questions, ask us. Hit our support desk up. You can go at any point to clipcast.ai. There's a support button at the bottom of the page. Get in there, ask us the question. We're here to help you guys out and help you guys be successful. All right, we're gonna go get to work on the replay. Mr. Zach Anderson, excellent job on the updates. It's making me super happy.
Yeah.
uh, they're looking really, really good, man. And I know we got some tweaks that we want to make to it, but it looks really good and it's working great. So I do appreciate that. And yeah, man, I can't wait to see what we got coming next. So I'm not going to tease that yet because I already know what we've got coming next, you guys. And it's pretty stinking cool. Yeah, I will. This link to this document, these trading documents, I will make sure that that is at the bottom of the podcast for the voice training stuff. But for those of you that are here with me right now, I'm going to go ahead and put it in the chat for you guys, so you have it in advance. This is just one of the benefits of showing up live. When you show up live, you get the stuff right away. And so that's in your chat for you guys that want to go over there. Just copy that doc to your own stuff. I see you guys popping in up here, which is always fun for me to see you guys popping in. Just make a copy. Go to File, click Make a Copy. That way you've got your own copy of this, and you're good. What is the status of the YouTube fix? Scott, did you come in late today? I'm sorry, you missed my whole spiel on it. It's fixed. It's all right, buddy. No, oh no, it's okay. I did a whole spill on it. It's fixed, brother. Like you can go in and you can go to YouTube now and you can get your podcast RSS feed in there now, and it should work. If you run into any problems, let us know. But everything should be good on the YouTube front today. Like I said, we're gonna go get this taken care of. You're getting a 404 on the blog. I'm not sure. Clipcast.ai/blog, brother. I'll put it in the chat again. So I don't know why it would have done that the first time. I don't know why it's doing it either. If he keeps doing it, let us know. Let us know, and we'll see what we can do. All right, you guys, take care. We're gonna go get the replay done. Thanks, Zach. Thanks, Katie. Thanks to all of you for being here today. We'll be back. We'll be back soon. We've got lots of cool stuff. Watch your email. We're gonna be talking about kind of some cool stuff that we got coming up. We've got a very special feature that we're working very hard on in the background that's requested, by the way, by you guys. That was a requested feature. We thought we could do better than what you requested, though. So we're taking a little extra time to do it, and you guys are going to be extremely excited about what we're putting together with this feature. And we got a lot more coming too, but this next one I'm pretty excited about. So yeah, okay, that's it. Go home. No, I'm just kidding. All right, you guys, be good. Take care of yourself. Little Ferris Bueller throwback there. See you guys. Have a good rest of the week. We'll see you next time.